Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Autosaving Today, a podcast dedicated to bringing superheroes to action by the power of video games. My name is Diego, and with me today are my partners in crime fighting, Josh from Panels to Pixels. How you doing,
Howdy.
Josh?
Very good, thank you.
And Xavier, also known as Godzilla Mendoza.
Hey,
How you doing?
doing good.
All right, good to have you guys here. Good to have you guys here. So we're having our first episode that's kind of dedicated to pitching you a video game. And what better character to start with than none other than the man without fear, Daredevil. So I guess to kind of give a small background on Daredevil's video game history, there isn't much of one, at least for his solo. For a solo video game.
Yeah.
He has one video game which I've reviewed on my channel. It's a Game Boy Advance game based on the was it 2003, right? That was
that's right.
Yeah. It was because like that was the only time that the brand of Daredevil was like big enough to like make them think that a video game would sell super well. It almost seems like games only really come out when a movie is kind of in the vicinity of its release.
Yeah, even today it's kind of true with the Arkham games.
Yeah, the Arkham games came out like every Arkham game came out right next to a Batman movie release, and then there hasn't been a Batman like movie for what, like 3 or 4 years now, and as such there hasn't been an Arkham game.
Right. So yeah, that Daredevil game, Game Boy Advance, based on the 2003 Ben Affleck movie. It wasn't like a direct adaptation from the movie. It seems like it might be set after the movie. But in terms of gameplay, it was really simple beat 'em up. Nothing special, not a bad game, serviceable for what it is. And there was also that canceled game, which I believe was it PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1?
I think it was PlayStation 2. Or wait, really?
I think it was PlayStation 1, yeah. It was around the same time as there was a Ghost Rider game in development. It must have been right at the end of... I might be wrong here. I was pretty certain it was around the time of like Tony Hawk's 2 and Spider-Man.
Actually, I think I might have a gameplay clip of it that I found. Yeah, it looks like a GameSpot trailer. It says Daredevil, the man without fear, PS2 and Xbox canceled.
Okay.
So there's kind of like a trailer that I could send you guys.
Yeah. There's been that good video on it by Unseen 64, I believe they're called. And excuse me. I mean, it looks like it could have been something pretty. It reminds me a lot of like Spider-Man 2000 on the PS1.
Yeah.
Like even graphically,
the colors on the costumes are really like bright and like comic booky. Like it really doesn't try to sacrifice the aesthetic at all. Like there's a gameplay clip where Elektra is beaten on Bullseye, and their costumes just pop so hard from this really dark background, and it looks kind of awesome.
Yeah, it did look pretty good. And some of the gameplay elements you could see, they had some traversal mechanics where he would grind on the on railings and like cables to kind of go from building to building.
So it's more of like a Sly Cooper kind of thing, right?
It was honestly kind of like a Tony Hawk's kind of thing.
Yeah, because like Sly Cooper like balances on a tightrope, but he's just like flat out just like grinding like it's a skateboard.
I think they might be sparks at the bottom of his feet as he
hold on, let me pull up the clip again and see. Yeah, there are sparks. I don't know how, but there are.
So if that was PS2, do you know what year that was? Was that to tie in with the movie? Because that would have been around 2003.
I think it might have been.
That's interesting.
Let's see. It says the game was canceled in 2004, so it would have been around the time of the movie. Yep. See that rule seems to not. There seems to be no exceptions with that.
Yeah.
So it appears that it would have been kind of like trying to ride the hype from the movie, but not necessarily be inspired by it, because it just doesn't seem to like have anything from the movie just from this trailer alone. It looks very, very comic booky. Like,
Yeah,
I could definitely see that comparison with Spider-Man 2000 because it's just so untainted by other adaptations or influences. It's just like here's a game based on the comics.
yeah. I think if you watch the video, they do mention that it was gonna be, what's the word, like a highlight reel of like some of his better stories from the comics. It wouldn't be like a start to finish traditional story kind of thing.
Can you imagine if they did like a whole section of levels based on Born Again, where you just are sad and sleep in piles of garbage?
Homeless.
All right, here's the part where you gotta tap A really fast to try and fall asleep in this extremely small apartment while you can hear the sounds of gunfire all across the entire city.
You can in the gameplay trailer, you can also see the heightened, I guess you would call it like hearing mode, or his heightened senses, which would kind of predate the detective mode from the Arkham games. You know, you can see through walls, highlight enemies, I guess maybe highlight stuff you can interact with.
Yeah, yeah. There's a clip of that where like everything kind of has this kind of hazy greenish glow, but like enemies are like silhouetted, and you can see like items of interest in the environment, like any interactables like highlighted. You can't exactly see like through the walls from what I can tell, but it's definitely a very similar sort of principle for gameplay mechanic.
Right. So I mean, I guess we would never know if this game would have been good or not. From the looks of it, I mean, it looks like it could have been a pretty standard early 2000s beat 'em up. You know, we'll never really know. But besides that, yeah, he's never had his own game. I mean, we've seen him in Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. He's been in. Is he in the latest in the Marvel vs. Capcom, the last one?
He was not. I played it the other day, and he wasn't in there.
That's unfortunate. He was in Marvel Nemesis. The funny story about that, I used to just replay kind of when I would play his level, I'd be like, so this is kind of the closest that we got to a Daredevil video game right now. Just replaying his solo level in Marvel Nemesis.
Yeah, which is like, here's 3 buildings in succession. You just got to jump from one rooftop to the other and fight some robots.
So yes, I mean, sadly, no Daredevil game as of yet. So what we're gonna do tonight is pitch you the ultimate Daredevil game, and hopefully we can do a good job at that, and hopefully it'll become a reality someday. So I figured that we kind of do this in sections, maybe like combat, world, traversal, stuff like that.
This is going to really test our abilities to be creative, because it's going to be so hard not to just describe an Arkham game.
Yeah, I'm really, that's kind of my goal. Make it like as far, maybe not as far from Arkham, but just try to keep Arkham from my head as much as I can. Because it's so easy. Because, I mean, it is, a lot of people do say that, yeah, just make it Arkham but Daredevil, and like, yeah, that could definitely work, but then like, what's there to look forward to if every superhero game is just Arkham?
No, you don't do Arkham for Daredevil. All right, you know what you do? You do Arkham but for the Predator.
Wait, isn't that a thing?
There's a game kind of like that, but not like really solid enough to be proud of. But
is that Concrete Jungle?
It came out like 2005. It attempted that, but like the mechanics just weren't quite there yet. Like they weren't perfected yet to really know what it was going for with some of the stealth. So, but there is something kind of like that.
That could work though.
But no, now that I'm thinking about it, I do have an idea for what a Daredevil game could really be like.
So I think one of the first questions or that pops into my head when thinking about a video game for a superhero is Do you go open world or kind of level by level, not necessarily linear, but just kind of set up an open world, you go level by level?
I've been thinking about this a lot today, knowing that we're going to do this, and I was thinking, I think you would default to open world, and particularly like the Arkham City kind of model. But I don't know if you guys have played Yakuza or Yakuza.
I've seen it. I never actually played it though.
I think I have not played them since back on the PS2, but back then I think they had it wasn't like full open world, but they had like portions of the city that you would move through, and then you had exploration within those smaller sections. And if you think about, Daredevil is very much about Hell's Kitchen and kind of confined to that area. I think it would be cooler to have sections of like little sections of alleyways which have unlockables that are like little hub worlds, maybe, but not like a true open world. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah, that sounds like that sounds pretty spot on, because like if you want to do like a really open world thing, it wouldn't, because like he stays in just this one little borough. He doesn't really go anywhere else unless he's like forced to. And would it really be that interesting to have like all this open world exploration for like do you really want to go all the way to Harlem? Like, you want to have anything to do there,
Yeah, my mind went to Deus Ex. You guys ever played?
Oh yeah,
Deus Ex games. I think it might be similar to the Yakuza, where they do have hub worlds, and within those worlds you have more detailed interior buildings and warehouses and stuff like that, which are really fitting levels for a game based on Daredevil. So I mean, it'd be kind of weird or like not weird, but difficult to figure out how do you section off Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that too. Is like, where do you put the borders to like just say this is the section of the city you can explore? Because I mean, it's a pretty decently large chunk of the city. Like, you could just kind of, if you really put a lot of work into detailing it, it could look like life size. And I feel like it would be big enough to explore and jump around and do like fun stuff in. But at the same time, like, where do you put that, like that defining line is, okay, this is the end of this is the end of the neighborhood. You can't go any further than that. Like, because in most games you just have like, all right, here's a police barricade, or just like, oh, here's this road is out or something. But like, he can swing on buildings and jump across rooftops, and like they're really like, unless you have like a giant force field.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like some sort of like a cutscene or something. Like, I think in the Arkham games, when you try to fly out, like he'll just kind of swoop back into the map rather than letting you go past the barrier. That's the only thing that I can really think of. Like, maybe he'll make some sort of comment where like, oh no, I can't stray too far from the person I'm tracking or where I gotta go. Yeah,
but like in Arkham City. Well, here's the thing: is that Arkham Asylum is on an island. It's very clearly defined. Like, okay, just like I can't go any further than this, right? Mm-hmm. Arkham City has a literal border wall around it that if you try to fly over, you'll spin back. And then Arkham Knight kind of lazily circumvented that again, even though the skybox for the last two different games made it look completely different. They're like, all right, it's just going to be 3 more islands, and you'll be able to go into them, but not like past them, and the bridges will be out. But it's a real life location. You can't just bullshit and say that Hell's Kitchen is an island, like, or unless you go like kind of like a GTA 4 route, because they kind of put these weird like sectioned off like rivers flowing through the city and made like Manhattan more like 3 islands that are just shaped like Manhattan. It was weird, but like I don't know. I don't think there's an easy fix for that.
What about Dr. Octopus has let off green gas and it's just perfectly surrounded Hell's Kitchen?
I was gonna bring up if you guys think this should be set in the Spider-Man PS4 universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I haven't. For me, it's kind of an easier answer. I would say definitely. The Avengers was a little like, I'm not sure, but for this one, I would definitely be set. So
Have Insomniac make it. They could just section off the map they've already built.
I mean, realistically, given all the stuff that they did for like the modeling of that city in that game, it really would just take a really talented modder to just make that, right? Like just like take out a couple of mechanics from Spider-Man, reskin him, maybe add like a new one for like a grappling hook kind of, that truncheon that turns into a grapple, something like that. Like it could very well just be like, here's another Spider-Man PS4 but on a way smaller scale, which I don't think I would like.
I wouldn't like that, because the approach that I want to go for a Daredevil game is have it be really grounded. I haven't read a terrible amount of Daredevil comics. I've read Born Again, Frank Miller's Man Without Fear. So to me, Daredevil is still like really human, I mean, I don't know if you can kind of back me up on that. Like, is he able to do these crazy feats like Spider-Man? And
no, not really. Like, at best you could get kind of that parkour mechanic, maybe, but like everything else would have to be scaled down a lot. Like his combat can't quite be as acrobatic. I mean, it could be decent, but like,
because when I like kind of to coincide with the design of the open world, I want the parkour to be like a lot more involved, as opposed to how it was in Spider-Man, where in Spider-Man, you are Spider-Man, you're supposed to kind of effortlessly be able to do all of these movements. But as Daredevil, I think it'd be really cool you kind of have to zone in and not mess up when you're trying to traverse through the city, like rather than having this button that you just hold down and you push forward. Like, Daredevil, he's really good at, parkour and jumping off buildings and stuff like that. But just to kind of differentiate from Spider-Man, I think it'd be cool for you to actually have the parkour for there to be skill involved,
Yeah.
And I think having a sectioned off portion of Manhattan with Hell's Kitchen, with a lot more design and thought put into the rooftops and the fire escapes, railings, light posts, to be really designed a certain way.
So something a little bit more like, and this is impossible to talk about, but like, there is Arkham City. Had very, very detailed like actual buildings and rooftops. I think it was like one of the first examples I could think of like a city that just like an open world map that really just didn't feel like an open world map, because most of the time it's a lot of asset reuse.
Felt like a big level.
It was like like Josh said, it was just a big hub world, right? Like, and it just leads you into these like mini indoor sections, but for the most part there wasn't. It wasn't an open world map, but it was just big enough to make you think it was, in a weird way, And it was just so insanely detailed. Like, you can find I mean, even still, people are finding like Easter eggs and just like little like smart little things that have been put in there, like, just positions of like bodies that have been killed in like gang violence or something, or like hints at like villains that are existing in this kind of sectioned off area. Like, you could find Scarecrow's mask just laying on a rooftop, basically. Or like it really had just so much thought put into it,
it was really
that it kind of that it clashed against like other games, like even Spider-Man Web of Shadows. The city looked really good in that for the time, but it still felt a lot like, okay, here's our generic street texture. Let's just like keep that going from this end to this end. Here's like
all over the place.
They have like 30 buildings, and then they'll just keep pasting them over and over and just kind of like vary them out, so you don't start to realize it's only the same 30 buildings, even though there's supposed to be like 10,000 of them. Like, they were pretty clever about it, but if you spend enough time looking at that game, you start to really see the asset reuse and how kind of generic and like, building blocksy it kind of feels. And then like 2 years later, Arkham City kind of is like, nah, we're gonna put like the special time into making sure that this one window looks different from every other window on the entire building.
Yes, that's definitely the approach I would want for a Daredevil game, and having interior levels as well. I think something that'd be really cool is to have all, if not almost all, the buildings accessible.
Yeah,
that could get tricky though. I would want most of them, but like
you would need loading screens like masked, because I also want the interior of the buildings to be really detailed.
Yeah,
So
I feel like that's a little bit of a taller order, but at the same time, like I don't know, considering like how big the the open world map for Spider-Man PS4 was, and like how that was pretty decently detailed. I feel like if you just like if you really did just cut off that section of Hell's Kitchen and go, okay, we're gonna put that same amount of work into just that area,
yeah,
they could pull it off.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's a decent amount of interiors in Arkham City for the size of it.
Yeah,
you could definitely, if you're scaling that down to the one borough, then it's definitely doable. And it's not just going to be like random apartments. Like you're saying every interior, but it's not just going to be like
that's true, because you don't want to
interior is
break
like
in,
yeah.
break into some poor guy's apartment and scare the shit out of them.
Like gang hideouts and warehouses.
Right. Yeah, warehouses.
You gotta have a reason to go in there.
Yeah. Well, it would be kind of fun to mess with the AI with the innocent civilians.
I've always kind of wanted to see like a superhero just accidentally like fall into the window of an apartment in like a game, and then you had to like get up and then run through the apartment. Like there's a couple of scenes in like Uncharted 3 that are really like that. Yeah, I've kind of wanted to see that during some kind of superhero battle. Like the E3 teaser for Spider-Man showed something like that, where he gets tossed into a coffee shop and has to run out, and it wasn't in the game.
No, that sucks, because it's funny, because that was like one of the highlights from the trailer that people kept pointing out, and
it was it really just boiled down to, we want to show the parkour mechanic in like an interesting-ish location, but like it just wasn't like realistic to actually put that location in the game, I guess, which is a little disappointing.
Trying to think of ways of how would the Billy Club work in terms of like the cable to swing.
Okay. All right, can I get into kind of the nitty gritty of this, because I really want to talk about this angle. All right,
go for it.
Have you guys both played Uncharted 4?
Yes. Oh, dude, you stole my idea. Yeah.
Does not the grapple hook mechanic in that work
that'd be perfect,
pretty much? Like, could you imagine like maybe make it a little more fluid so that you could kind of chain the grapples together? Like it's not quite the same as a swinging mechanic, because it is a little limited, and it is very momentum based, because like if you just stop moving forward, you'll just dangle, right?
Yeah.
So like throw in something like that, where the little Billy Club thing, which also he would be using for combat to smack the shit out of people. You could also maybe kind of akin to the grapple mechanic from Arkham, can like launch it out and hit people at a distance. Or you could like, there will be kind of set points that it can attach to around the city. Not quite like Spider-Man, where it's just like, if you're near a building, you can swing from it. Like it would have to be specific points, like sturdy enough for it to latch onto.
Right.
So it would limit you in a way that you'd have to really think about where you're like looking, and you maybe that could even go into some kind of mechanic with the radar sense, where you have to find spots that are primed to do it. So like it would have you, because as Spider-Man, you kind of just mindlessly swing, you don't really pay attention to that. As Daredevil, you just like, if you fall 2 stories, you're done. You don't have that extra strength, or that you don't have that same level of ease. So it would make you have to think a little bit more, than not at all, about where you're placing these swing points, and how you're going to get
fall damage would definitely be a thing.
Yeah, right. Or how am I going to get it from this area to over there down the block? Like, should I jump from that point or that one? Like it would get you thinking. It would get you feeling a little bit more human because not everything would be easy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have that noted down on my pad, like literally Uncharted 4, a grappling hook.
Oh,
In
I'm
my
sorry.
notes. No, I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think, like you said, in Spider-Man and PS4, you're not really worrying about where your web line is gonna be attached to. You're pretty much guaranteed that you're gonna be okay. And with Daredevil, I wanted to again be more grounded, a little clunkier, have more weight to it. Just give you that feeling of that, not necessarily uneasy, but you're thinking about it. You want to make sure that you don't splat down on the floor because fall damage will definitely be a thing. And I guess to add to some more detail to the swinging mechanics, I think maybe adding like mixing in wall running, maybe pushing off sides of building to kind of propel you a little bit
definitely
more forward and stuff like that. Again, nothing like Spider-Man where you're gonna like cover a whole block when you launch
it would have
yourself.
to be a little bit more like Prince of Persia kind of wall running, where if you aren't quick about it, you'll end up falling.
Exactly.
That's a really good example. What about something that no one ever really talks about is the Catwoman traversal in Arkham City, and if like they made this whole other traversal method that seeming for like an hour's worth of content in the game, and that it works really well, and it's more skill based, and the timing is you've really got to get into the momentum of it in a way that maybe the Uncharted one is more kind of find an anchor point and the physics kind of take care of themselves. I think a combination of those two would be good, where you have grapple points, but you have to, you're using the architecture a bit more. And as you're saying, like fire escapes and things like that, you can kind of maneuver around those, and then you combine the parkour into that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's an amazing point, actually. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
I guess while we're in the topic of the old trusty Billy Club, do you guys have any ideas for how to use it in combat? I guess we can now segue into combat.
All right, okay, so you guys counter dodge button, all right? And if someone's about to hit you, you hit another button, and then you'll be like, no, you don't get to hit me. And then like, oh my gosh.
So here's the thing. Like my idea to not have it just be the free flow combat. I think when you think back to Matt Murdock's father, he's a boxer.
He takes hits.
Yeah. I think having the combat be more kind of like one-on-one based rather than taking down a room full of guys. And I mean, Daredevil can definitely do that. But again, to go with the more grounded take of the character, you can still fight 3-4 guys at a time, but you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, like if 3 or 4 is like, oh shit, I gotta focus.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I was kind of thinking about, like, how about, because generally these comic book superhero video games are a third-person action game, right? Yeah. How about just having it be a stealth game? Like totally fully leaning into a stealth game. At least when it comes to combat and going about your level, you're trying to avoid combat. You're Daredevil. You don't necessarily need to. You don't see. You don't need light. So you're kind of trying to avoid combat, taking out lights, using your radar senses.
You could definitely do a lot of cool mechanics about smashing every light, kind of like the darkness.
Yeah, totally.
Where like no one can see what the hell is going on except you. And that like leads to like some cool moments of like the enemy AI being like really confused and panicky because they're like bumping into each other or hitting each other in the dark.
Yeah, they're flailing their flashlights around and stuff.
So right. That could lead to some cool moments.
So I mean, there would definitely still be a combat system, honestly, but yeah, like I said, I think having it be more one-on-one base and more technical. I want to bring up one of the tweeters. that someone
The
sent
Tweetmans.
over. Yeah. Let's see if I can bring it up here.
I think I know the one you're going to bring up, and I was just about to bring it up as well because I thought that was such a good idea.
Yeah,
if it's the one I think you're going to say.
Where is it? I want to make sure I read it right. Okay, here we go. Replace the gadget wheel. This is from @Savage TV1.
Okay.
He says, replace the gadget wheel with a moves wheel. Each slot is a different fighting style that he uses, such as boxing, kung fu, jiu-jitsu, etc.
Holy shit, that sounds awesome.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think you guys ever heard of? I think it's called a Absolver. Is that right?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Is that game where it's like really like martial arts heavy?
Yeah. Is it like an online thing?
Yeah, it's got like social integrations.
Yeah.
Online thing.
I've not played it, but I remember when it came out.
Yeah, so like I'm picturing something like that where you can, you're focusing on a more one-on-one fight, looking for, certain animations that'll let you know that there's an opening for you to take a shot, or maybe even using your hearing out for your opponent's heartbeat. It'll beat a certain way, and oh, he's nervous, or so like now's my time to strike, or something like that. So yeah, I think the whole when it comes to fighting 3 or 4 guys, there's still that one-on-one approach going on, but you kind of gotta be more aware of your surroundings. So you quickly, if you let's say your radar sense pops off or whatever, it wouldn't be like an automatic counter button like the Arkham games. It would give you, I guess time would slow down a little bit. You kind of have to yourself, rather than hitting the button, you got to manually switch over to the guy that's about to attack you, and maybe like do a quick attack or like throw your billy club at him to stun him. So you're kind of controlling the crowd. You're more involved. You got to be more aware, rather than just hitting one button. You kind of have to,
Can I chime in something here that I actually thought about just now? I know this is like a weird thing to pull from, but in like the original God of War games, there's a really great mechanic for like blocking and parrying. Like it's not like a counter dodge button. It's really skill based. It's just like if someone's about to hit you, it doesn't really give you like a hey, you better do something right now. Like it doesn't give an indicator. You just, if you block, you'll be able to just kind of like take the hit and then like push them off. When you said something about Daredevil being a little bit more of a boxer and like taking more hits instead of trying to dodge all of them, I thought like something like that could be kind of cool, where he'll take the hit and then just kind of like shrug it off and then get back to like another move, like, or he'll just kind of like slap the guy's hand out of the way or something.
Yeah.
But in a different fighting style, maybe he'll actually try to dodge it more, like.
Right. Okay. So you switch over to a different fighting style that's more appropriate for taking on more than one guy.
Yeah. So there's one fighting style where the button is like, it's like there's a dedicated just react button. Sometimes it'll be like I'm just gonna like brute force it through that hit and like take it, or in another fighting style, it'll be like I'll try to like maybe kind of parry or counter it, and then another one it'll just be I'll just dodge to the side or dodge under it. And it just, as long as you make sure to hit that button, you'll do one of the 3. And like, and then maybe you could work in some other stuff. Like if you do take the hit and then like kind of push through, it'll reduce the damage like significantly, but you'll still take damage. But then you'll also do more damage when you throw another hit back after taking it.
Right.
Yeah. What about a cool twist on the kind of the typical Arkham thing would be if the more damage that you take, the kind of more restricted. Because when I think of Daredevil, especially with the Netflix series, he's like a brawler, and I imagine him taking like a knife to the gut and things, and him like having to hold his chest but keep slugging away with his free hand kind of thing. What if the more damage you took, the more restricted you were in your kind of moves, and you have to work around that and improvise through that, which is, rather than being focused on like combos or free flow, it's more about strategically planning. And you were saying before with like the seeing a tell with the enemy, and it kind of, that makes me think, not that I'm suggesting it should be like a Dark Souls clone, but in the way that you are like you're having to observe the enemy more. It isn't just like a thing that flashes over your head and then you know to counter.
Yeah, like they'll have to telegraph their attacks a decent amount for you to be able to do something. And then maybe on like the higher difficulties, those animations for them like getting ready to wind, the wind up for their hits is like way faster or something.
Yeah.
But something else you just kind of remind me of is like what if like as you're getting hit more, it's restricting you in slowing you down. But what if also because that whole like let the devil out, all those anger issues, what if he actually also just starts dealing more damage the lower his health gets?
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah, let
The
the
rage
adrenaline
mode.
kick in.
So maybe sometimes sometimes you'll actually just let them damage you a little bit so that you could get like you could hit harder because you got to like get like it's a little bit of a gameplay thing that kind of works with Daredevil. Is he's got to get in that mindset of, okay, I'm about to knock this guy the fuck out. Like he's got to get angry enough for it first,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that you can strategize when like, all right, just fucking wail on me, and then it could be used as a last resort thing, or yeah, I mean, just strategizing. How are you going to take out? Because again, like when I want the feeling of when you walk in or you get caught or whatever, and it's 4 or 5 guys, like you're like, oh shit,
Yeah. There needs to be that moment because with Spider-Man, it's like that combat is just so fluid and you're so strong that you feel like you can take on the whole world, and they'll throw like 50 NPCs at you with like different weapons. Like these guys have rocket launchers over here. These guys have like rifles and shotguns over here. These guys all have like sub weapons or shields, and you don't panic. You don't ever go, oh boy, I don't know if I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
If you're like adept enough at that combat, you're like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. It'd be even more so with Daredevil when you go through different enemy types. You start with your everyday thug, maybe to them some mafia members or whatever, and by the end of the game you're fighting ninjas, which is like, oh, you really got to be on your game.
Oh yeah, like you gotta like catch a katana blade before it hits you or something.
Yeah, or like when you're trying to stealth around towards the end of the game, you would normally use your senses to to pinpoint the enemies. But I believe it was in season 2 of Netflix.
Yeah.
At the hand, which they trained or they take some sort of drug to really slow down their heartbeat so you can't hear them.
Yeah, and so, then they're just so light of foot that they like you can't even hear them like stepping on the ground.
Yeah,
because so they're like all practically wearing socks.
Yeah, so at that point your senses would have worked. So you just got to be really careful and just pick them out yourself. Which it kind of makes me think. So Daredevil can't see, right?
Yeah.
He uses his heightened senses to see around him, whatever, in quotes.
Yeah.
But if us as the player see the ninja guy hiding in the corner of the room up on the ceiling, like is that like an external force kind of pushing Daredevil in the right direction since he technically can't see? It was us as the player that saw the character model in the game.
That's one of the things that's difficult to consider is like what, like, with most games you don't really have this issue. It's hard to even like kind of consider this, but when you're just in normal gameplay as like, as Isaac Clarke or Nathan Drake or whatever, like even though it's a third person perspective, you're still pretty much just seeing everything that they're capable of seeing. But how do you do a third person game as a blind guy? Because there's actually more than one game, I think, where it's like a first person game playing as a blind character who can only see through like echolocation. Like there's this
Perception,
horror,
I believe.
Yeah, that horror indie game where some lady is like investigating a like a haunted house or something.
Yeah, I think we're thinking of the same one.
But like there would be a little bit of a disconnect between what Matt can see and what you can see, and that would be kind of hard to figure out how to call attention away from. Is that like you can see the colors of everything, you can see everything going on. It kind of would be a little immersion breaking because it's kind of taking you out of his headspace if you can see things normally, but like it's asking a lot of the player to have like 90% of the game look like detective mode.
Yeah.
Except for like cutscenes or something.
Yeah, I want to bring up a tweet that's kind of in the same topic. This comes from Iron Ninja at Iron Ninja 2000. A Daredevil VR game where the only way to see things is to make noise or have noise around you. Kind of similarly to detective mode. Obviously, like, how else could you do it?
Do you remember there was a game, I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, where you start off and it's like a completely white world
Unfinished,
and then...
Unfinished Swan.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. And I'm not suggesting that the whole game could be that, but that would be a way of incorporating that like echolocation thing where you have, you're completely just blind to your surroundings, and then you have to interact with the world in order for it to become visible to you, kind of thing.
Right. So you could throw your billy club down the hallway, and then you'll get
exactly
an outline of your environment.
But how long would that last, though? Would that last like a couple seconds? Like, would you have to keep doing that? Like keep just banging things around or making noise?
That could be like, all right, well, let's say that, in normal circumstances, there's so much ambient noise going on anyway that you can make that picture for yourself. But then there are stages which are puzzles where maybe you're put into like a soundproof area or something.
Or just, well, okay. That's another thing is like cities are just so loud naturally that like everything, like if you're outside, everything's illuminated. Like there's a million noises everywhere, like inside the buildings, outside the buildings, on the street, the cars, right? But like, okay, let's say you get into a warehouse and there's a decent amount of guys. Maybe it could be clever in that it's making them do something that allows you to see, like maybe they're in like a car chop shop and there's enough noise from them, like, working on equipment or tearing apart cars or using tools that you can just basically see everything. Or maybe down the hall there's these two guys just having a conversation and it's just like lighting up that whole hallway for you. Or I don't know, maybe some guy leaves the TV on really loud in one room and it's just like that whole room is visible now just because of that. Right? Like, you could do some really creative stuff with that.
Definitely.
I just feel like, again, though, as cool as that is, it's hard to get a player to do the entire game that way.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like it's just like it's just it would get a little tedious.
Yeah.
But I like Josh's idea that maybe, on special occasions, like it is kind of a puzzle. If you're in a soundproof room and you got to use your heightened senses to figure out what you got to do, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like the detective puzzles in the Arkham games. I mean, there are people who played the entire Arkham games in detective mode because it just highlights everything.
So easy.
But again, that's not, you're not getting the sense of the art design and stuff like that. And I feel like
actually. Someone in the chat just said, what about the listen mode in The Last of Us?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Like, how do you guys think the Daredevil's heightened senses mode should look? Because I definitely don't want like a detective mode with like just super bright lights and neon stuff.
Here's the problem with detective mode is that it is a toggle and you could turn it on and it makes everything so much easier that you can just forget to turn it off, and then you'll spend 95% of the game as Batman fighting a bunch of glowing neon skeletons. I think The Last of Us did that idea for mechanic slightly better in that during listen mode, you're kind of hindered because you like, in order to really like listen in, you have to slow down a little bit and like take in the environment. And I mean, actually, yeah, like it is kind of listening through echolocation. Like you can hear things through walls and like see like little pings of enemies like behind stuff.
Yeah.
So it could be something like that where you have to hold the button down in order to do it. So you're not going to have it on 95% of the time. And then two, it slows you down because you can't just like, you can't just hear everything in the whole city. You have to like zone in on things.
Yeah,
like,
you got to focus. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing about Daredevil too, is that like he can't just magically take in everything in the city. He's trained himself to be able to shut some things out and just zero in on what's like relevant at the moment. So like you're not going to have like every single noise everywhere all at once. You're going to have, okay, what's like clear and present that I need to focus on.
Yeah, and I really like the look too, from the Last of Us listen mode, where it kind of fades into black and white, and it's not.
So just do that same kind of effect, but it turns red.
Yeah, just have kind of like a smoky outline of the enemies in red,
Yeah,
rather than like a
everything
super
looks
bright.
like it's on fire.
Yeah, just have it rather than, because Batman's detective mode is technology. It's a piece of equipment that he uses, so it's gonna look that certain way. But when it's someone's natural ability, it's you could do more sexy looking stuff rather than have it be just a whole bunch of bright lights. Something more sleek.
Yeah, definitely something more organic.
Exactly.
Like the texture of the walls can look a little weird and like vibraty, or like everything has like this kind of. I like what you said with that. Like everything has this kind of smoky effect coming off of it.
Yeah.
That's how I tend to picture it.
Because I mean, if things are if you're working off sound, the sound isn't so precise. It like dissipates in the air, so everything is kind of hazy, and you're presumably. I mean, I don't know. I've never done echolocation, but presumably everything is on like a slight delay, and everything has like a reverb trail. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not going to be a perfect outline of a guy.
I think that'd be a cool way of
so how about this? The rest of the game is kind of like a third-person, like Spider-Man style thing. But when you activate that listen mode, it doesn't quite make you like hunch down and like, but maybe it brings the camera a little bit closer, and it kind of it's like you walk a little bit slower. Like maybe you can still do stuff like kind of some minor combat stuff, or like for sure you can like still throw your billy club or something, and like maybe you have some kind of like mechanic, kind of like the God of War axe, where you just like aim where it goes and then it retracts. Like take it from third person Spider-Man game, and then you hit that sense button to just like zero in on what's going on in the environment, and then it goes in closer to more of like a third person, like God of War 4, Last of Us kind of camera angle, where you're really in on what's happening with him. And then just like the entire like texture of the whole level design changes, and then maybe you can actually start doing what we were suggesting with like that everything is based on sound, like everything will be dark if there's no sound at all. So maybe there is a way to really actually do that, but it's just tricky. Like it's hard, but maybe you can pull it off.
Cause it's such a integral part of the game, like being able to see what the hell is in the game. So you're definitely doing it. It's risky when you're playing with something that's out of the norm like that. But I wanted to bring up another tweet. This is from @Marvel_MMO. He says, a feature that lets you shift from third person to first person to see, like Daredevil, allowing you to see hidden clues, use your sense of smell to track scents, or to avoid incoming fire by dodging the path of bullets. Use third person for traversal and combat.
So kind of just like it's pretty similar to what I just suggested, but just like going even further with taking the perspective in on like what Matt's perception. So I think either one could work. It's just the reason I want a campaign for having it be third person is because I want the transition into combat, or the ability to like use it during combat, to be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Because having a third person view transition to a first person view is very jarring. You would not be able to do that very quickly. You'd have to really like like that might almost take you out of it having to like really like readjust yourself. So I think doing just a different type of third person might just have a little bit more of that connectivity. So like, you know, it's not as much of a big leap.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I totally see what you mean. Just to give him a shout out, we have at Studios 0612. He says must be first person. So it's kind of surprising. I don't think that the thought of having a Daredevil game be first person would be so popular.
I think some of the suggestions are sarcastic. Have you seen there's a meme? It's like
Oh yeah,
okay. Every now and then, and
it's just
like,
a black screen.
Just a black screen. Yeah,
I think a lot of those are going for that.
I thought that would be the first thing that would come up in this conversation, to be honest. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm with Xavier here. I like with the third person thing, and I think it makes me think of I can't remember which one of the Amazing Spider-Man games it was, where the web swinging it would make you go into first person.
That was the first Amazing Spider-Man
and it's
game.
just so like, I don't know, it's cheesy. It's just really not
cool.
Well,
because then there's also like the technical problem is like going into a first person view. Sometimes you have to clip the camera straight through his head.
Yeah.
Right. So like it looks a little silly sometimes. I didn't even think of that mechanic from the Amazing Spider-Man games. But no, that's exactly like that. And it's ugh.
Yeah. What you were saying before as well, I mean, about having to have these slower moments where you're going into this kind of sonar vision, it made me think that would be a really cool twist on something that is like a bullshit open world trope, which is the Assassin's Creed thing of going up to the eagle perches and kind of opening up the world, or in Spider-Man PS4, it's with the satellites. And that'd be a cool thing to do, is if you have to get to a vantage point and then you have to focus in on the sounds to kind of, you know, there's countless scenes in the comics that are like this, but there's a scene in the Netflix series where he does that, and he's like having to really focus, and there's all this noise going on,
right?
To find, I can't even remember, those shows are so forgettable. Is it like Claire Temple's gone missing, or Karen Page has been taken, or something?
Yeah, I think
he was
like trying to track down an armored truck or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate that because of like I'm gonna guess it's a budgetary constraint, but in all three seasons of that show, they only showed you a first person view once, and it lasted like 5 seconds, and you never get to see it again. It was such a cool aesthetic too, and it was like, well, I want to see more of that.
I wasn't that crazy on the way it looked, and I always thought that the title sequence with the kind of like the wet kind of redness, I thought that would be a much cooler way to go.
Like what if sound is visually represented as like a liquid?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that could even be cooler.
And that's what I thought you were getting at before with the smokiness of it. It's like, I can't even put it into words. It's so
everything has like this kind of fluid, and it's like it looks like everything is under blood or like water or something, like red water. But that's just sound visually represented because sound permeates really everything, you know?
Water's a really good way of visualizing sound. I can get super nerdy with you guys here because I've did my master's degree in audio production. But there's like a thing called cymatics, which is, it's vibration through water and how that represents sound waves. And that would be a really cool way of bringing that in.
So I guess technically it would be like, it wouldn't really be the sound that's the water. It would be more like the air is water, but like the waves inside of it and like sort of like the distortions would be the actual sound vibrating through it.
Yeah, the kind of ripples.
Yeah.
Through water, yeah.
That could look really cool. I'm actually super glad we came up. You know what? All of these ideas are actually getting me so excited that I really hope that someone hears this. Like, I want the right person to hear this. Like, some developer like Naughty Dog or Sucker Punch and be like, all right, I mean, hold on. And he takes out his notebook and starts taking down notes.
Yeah, I that's really cool. Like, really abstract. I like that.
And I can't think of anything else that's like that. Like, I'm trying to think of another game that has done that kind of aesthetic or even like a movie. Like I like, okay, even everything was represented kind of like an X-ray, like everything like blue and staticky.
Yeah. That's like your $3 million idea on the show, Josh.
He just keeps killing it, man. I'm glad we have him.
But it's actually, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about this because we're talking about a dream game, but you said about kind of the budget of the Netflix show. And the unfortunate truth about Daredevil is that he's a C-list character. So he isn't going to get a budget like Spider-Man.
No. That game,
you guys
not
don't think so?
As pretty as it could.
And that's actually, you were saying at the top of the show about how his only movie tie-in was the Game Boy game. That's kind of unique for those early Marvel movies, because every single one, with the exception of Elektra, which was a Daredevil spin-off, they all got console tie-in games.
Well, Daredevil was going to have a console tie-in game, and they're just like, nah, let's just put out the Game Boy one. That's
exactly. And it's like, I think that speaks to, if we're not thinking about what the ideal Daredevil game would be for fans, that's going to inform what kind of game it is. And I think that the smaller budget on a game means that you can be more abstract with it and make it more of an indie title, and you can bring in, the unfinished swan kind of model for it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that like Daredevil being a little bit like more obscure than certain other characters works to his advantage, because they would throw less money at it, which means it's less of a risk if they do weird shit.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest criticism of Spider-Man PS4 is that everything was a bit too safe and a bit too like they
Hollywood.
Didn't want to. Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to rock the boat too much, and they didn't want to make anything about it too challenging. Everything's super accessible. Everything looks like the movies, basically.
Yeah, in terms of aesthetic and gameplay, absolutely. I think they did one kind of like crazy thing with their story, which is a spoiler, that I'm glad was like, if you're gonna take one risk in that whole game, I'm glad they took that one, because it's a risk that even like the comics aren't willing to take, because it's kind of scary, right? So, but no, I absolutely agree, is that like everything in that game looks as like normal and easy to wrap your head around as possible.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, I'm not faulting that at all, but with a Daredevil game, I don't know, you could be there's less to lose, I guess, for the developers.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just like, it's an IP that not as many people are like protective of or like attached to. Like, I'm sure the like Daredevil has a decent number of fans, like enough to keep his book going like consistently as long as Spider-Man's, right?
Enough to put billboards up to save the Netflix series.
Say, oh yeah, right. Like there's some diehards, but like, there's not going to be as big of like a media outcry if they do something that just doesn't work. Like if they have an idea that they want to try that fans just don't gravitate towards, it wouldn't be the same as with like an Arkham game or Spider-Man, where it's just like everything is under a microscope. We have to do it 100% right. Don't fuck up anything, right?
Yeah, and I think we talked about this on the first episode in the Arkham game. That's what's so amazing about that first Arkham game, is because nobody had any expectations for it, and so they were able to innovate with it.
What if that's the problem with this like Daredevil game, is that like if it does these innovative and cool ideas that we're pitching, what if it does that, and then the sequel has to basically just be more of the same, because it like launches Daredevil to some kind of like new level of popularity, and they're like, well, okay, everything that worked the first time, let's just do that again.
Well,
don't be crazy, guys.
There's the worst problems to have than having a game that's too successful.
Yeah, no, that I agree. Is like it's good to at least have gotten that one really experimental indie one in there, and then just like the rest of it's like, blockbustery. But I like we talked about this the other day. Is I'm really looking forward to a new game that's just gonna like completely rock the boat and do something different that everyone's gonna start ripping off for the next 10 years.
Totally, yeah. Agreed. Yeah, we did, and we talked about the hack and slash, how that was the de facto superhero game model, and now it's the Arkham thing, and I really want to see what the next thing is going to be, because it can't just be free flow. Like,
yeah,
players will get so bored of that.
I'm already super bored of free flow combat. It's in everything.
Yeah,
like even like Spider-Man, like barely squeak by trying to figure out how to not do it. And even then it's kind of similar. Like you can see the thumbprints on it. And you're like, yeah.
They got away with it because I don't know, they made it more fluid, and I guess for me it was more engaging than the Arkham combat, because it was more acrobatic and stuff like that, and there was more variety.
You could just do more stuff. Like there's just so many, like, it's weird how they managed to have Spider-Man seem to have more gadgets and applications for them than Batman.
Yeah.
But it like worked. Or like the verticality especially helps. Like you can fight people in the air pretty consistently in that. And like the layouts of the fights are also, there's a lot of thought put into that. It's not just here's a little arena that's just a flat section where you can fight guys. Like, you know, there's a guy up here that's sniping you. There's a guy down here that's on a different level. Like you really have to work in a lot of traversal as you're fighting. So it's different enough, but you could still see there's a little bit of influence. I think I really actually like the combat in Spider-Man. I don't know if I want it to be the new default. I don't want it to be the next thing that everyone kind of rips off forever.
Yeah, it doesn't work for every character either.
It's really based around just being Spider-Man. Like that's the thing, is that the free flow combat was just a unique enough like mechanic that well actually that's the thing, is like it works well for Batman, but Batman's like a normal guy.
Yeah. That's why Mad Max was able to do a free flow combat too.
Yeah, I was going to bring up Mad Max.
You could apply that free flow combat mechanic to like a whole laundry list of characters, but like Spider-Man's combat is kind of stuck on Spider-Man,
which is a good thing. Which I'm glad, because you know, like we don't have another case of free flow in every game, or well, Spider-Man now.
It's interesting that you brought up Mad Max, because that because you know, we're limited in what we can, what could be done, and if we were going to do a variation on the Arkham thing, that would be a good route to go down, because that is more one-on-one, and that is, you get a greater sense of weight. You can't do the big barrel roll over 15 feet across the room like Batman can. Yeah, and actually, the precursor to the Arkham combat, that's kind of credited as the godfather of the free flow thing. But I don't know if you guys have played Sleeping Dogs, I think it was.
Oh yes.
That has the similar kind of dodge counter thing, and that maybe use that as a jumping off point instead of the Arkham game. So it's similar, but that's more of the one-on-one kind of street fight kind of thing.
Yeah, like you said before about Daredevil being more of a brawler, that's how I would describe the Mad Max combat a lot. It's really just, you know, bare knuckle fisting and really like dirty fighting, you know, in the Mad Max game. Which
picking up a shiv and kind of
I mean, Daredevil wouldn't do that, but
you know, actually, I just thought of also is Uncharted 3 has a different combat system from like both games prior to it and the one after it. Weirdly enough, like that one's like,
is that the one that starts in the London pub?
That one you're
thing.
More of like a boxer, like I think something that kind of set that apart, because it's still very clearly like a counter dodge button, like it's the same button as Arkham to dodge under a guy and hit him in the stomach or something. But something that made that particularly special for me anyway was the amount of like interactables in the environment. Like I think the actual like term for it is punch lasers, because you throw a punch and it's like there's like this amazing little mechanic where it actually sends out like a laser to scan the environment. Like everything that's in front of you, it'll check and it'll be like, what's an interactable? And before that punch lands, if it detects something close enough, it'll trigger another animation where you grab whatever that thing is or like kind of go over to it and then use it. So like if you're fighting a guy next to a kitchen cabinet, you throw that punch, it'll see the kitchen cabinet door. Nathan Drake will grab it, swing it open, and hit the guy in the face with it. And it just really like puts you in that location. Like you don't feel like you're just doing the same mechanic you've done a billion times in like a different spot. It makes you really feel like, okay, I'm fighting a guy in a kitchen. Because like he'll like pick up a pan and like hit him with it or something. Or like he'll specifically go shove people out of windows if they're close enough. Like it really like sets you in that environment. That's something that like they've touched on a little bit in the Uncharted and Last of Us games like since then, but I feel like they could have gone like way harder on that and like used that. Like I'm surprised more people didn't try to rip that off. Yeah, because that was really cool.
Now for Daredevil, do you think it should kind of take that same concept of having the punch laser and have it be more automatic, or would you rather have it be more manual where you have to look out? Or well, I guess you could put it in with the heightened senses mode where you scan the room for any type of objects that
what
you
if
could
you
use.
can only you could use those after you've seen them in your heightened sense. So if you don't like take a glance over the area before that, you won't know which stuff to grab because technically Matt really can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll basically be like you have to make sure that he saw it first so that he'll know it's there for the following battle.
Yeah.
Or maybe since we talked about like doing that like fighting style weapon wheel sort of deal, what if the punch laser is a specific mechanic to one fighting style?
Yeah.
Like because like you know the jujitsu whatever can have like really fast fighting moves and require you to do like more counters, but then like the boxing one, you're doing a lot more dodging.
Yeah.
Or you could just have just like this all out just street brawler mode where it's not really any kind of fighting style specifically. It's just kind of like angry flailing that could have the punch laser and the mechanic for taking hits, but also dealing out equal damage.
Dude, I think about the whole gadget wheel of switching up your fighting style, and man, the possibilities of having that applied when you're doing a boss fight where you got to figure out, okay, what is style that I can beat this guy with?
What's going to work on Bullseye in this exact moment, right?
Exactly.
Like, or maybe it depends on like the phase of the boss. Maybe it depends on, maybe they can switch fighting styles too, and you have to counter the one they're doing. Like, I don't know. I can't think of like a specific example. Like maybe you're fighting like Elektra or Bullseye, and they go into a fighting style that has a lot of really fast hits, and you can't dodge them fast enough in your boxing style. So you got to go for something that just can like, you can go for the other one that'll just like let you take those hits and then deal out the same amount of damage. So technically you're fighting slower than they are, but you're also being able to hit just as hard.
Yeah. Fight with was it Nomu? Is that the ninja dude?
Nobu.
Yeah. I think because a lot of people, I haven't played Arkham Origins in a while, but a lot of people bring up the Deathstroke fight in that game, and I'm not as I don't think I'm not as crazy about it as a lot of people are.
It's almost okay. I think the coolest and most memorable thing about it is just the fact that it has a lot of really badass animations.
Yeah.
But in terms of an actual like one-on-one battle, you're really not asked to do anything.
Yeah, all I remember is
strategic.
What's stuck in my mind was I just picture Batman like doing his arm blade thing a lot, blocking his sword attacks.
Yeah, and then he like switches weapons 3 times, and you don't really have to do anything different. You just keep fighting him the way you normally would, pretty much. Yeah. It's cool looking. And it's cool seeing Batman fight Deathstroke because we don't see that very often in anything except comics. I see why you think that one's kind of kind of lame.
Yeah,
and I kind of get it.
I want to take that fight, like how that fight is perceived, but actually have
Like-
it be, you know?
Yeah, like you actually really have to. Okay, like you're fighting Bullseye, and he's like doing like all kinds of different stuff, and you have to really switch up your own tactics to be able to keep up.
And it's no QTEs. It's all
No.
mechanic of switching up your fighting style and looking out for visual cues, animations.
That bit where Deathstroke is slashing at you with the sword, it's essentially just a QTE. You just have to keep hitting the counter button to keep blocking them. And it's once you figure that out, it just kind of like a lot of the boss fights do that, and it just stops being engaging. It's like, all right, I just gotta mindlessly tap triangle now until this sequence is over. Like, yeah, Arkham has a real problem with boss fights, and I feel like this Daredevil game that we're totally gonna make now after this, is really gonna set the bar for that. Because like,
what about
even Spider-Man didn't have very spectacular boss fights.
No, definitely not. What about the best Arkham boss fight is Mr. Freeze? That's kind of the one that everybody remembers.
Well, yeah, because that's exactly what we're talking about. Is that he keeps doing new shit, and you have to keep adapting. And he's like, you can't use the same trick on him twice.
Exactly.
Like, it's probably one of the best boss fights in video games, but it's like kind of overshadowed and forgotten because of the fact that it's in close proximity to so many other boss fights that are really kind of blech.
Yeah. The gadget wheel, I think, opens it up really well to, we've kind of talked about the sorry, my mind's gone blank. Strategies for beating certain bosses. So you've got to do, you've got to fight in a certain style to get the drop on a certain boss, but it also opens it up for player style. If you can do, and that could open up to like some light RPG elements. I don't know if that's an area you would want to go down, but it kind of like maxing
you definitely
out
have some upgrades,
certain fighting style and things like that.
Yeah. Like I want my boxer fighting style to be a little bit like stronger, just because I think that's like me as a player. I've decided that that's the one that I think has the coolest animations and it feels like best in terms of playability. So like, you can upgrade that one a little bit so that like you can do even more damage or have like extra mechanics or something.
Yeah, I mean Arkham Knight kind of did that actually. Thinking about it, that had an upgrade tree and it had like 4. In that case, it's like combat, gadgets, stealth, and then the vehicular one. And then, but if it was more like the 4 or however many fighting styles, and you're spending upgrade points and going in a certain direction, I think that'd be really cool.
I will say one thing though about the boss fights and that like fighting style wheel. Something that they should also think about, like, is that what if it's like kind of unpredictable because whoever you're fighting is doing their thing kind of at random. I don't want it to be like if you've played this boss fight like 4 times, you go, okay, now he's gonna do this. Now I gotta do this. Like the Mr. Freeze boss fight is like awesome the first time. And then the second time you just go, all right, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this, and it'll be over.
You brought up, Josh, you brought up Dark Souls a while ago. And I'm like, as crazy as it might sound, I think applying an approach to the boss fights for something like that could work really well, where you just, you don't just memorize how this boss fight's going to go, but having it be this, dynamic fight where it's more about reading, the moment to moment gameplay of reading your enemy's moves, and it might it might not be the same thing every time. So I think the boss fights in a Daredevil game with the gadget wheel and having the technicality of reading your opponent could work. Like a Soulsy approach could work for the boss fight or just the combat in general.
Totally, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to go really far down the Daredevil thing, you could be like, you're hearing weaknesses in them, so you can hear. Maybe this wouldn't work with bosses particularly, but in the Arkham games, we're talking about the Arkham games so much, and we tried not to do this, but in the Arkham games, you can use detective mode, and it tells you what the heart rate is, and that'll tell you if they're scared or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it would be cool to know, that you can defeat an enemy in a certain way because you can tell if they're frightened or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's another note that I have down in my pad, a fear meter for enemies. I know that's something that the Arkham games did, but I never really felt like it affected anything. Like, yeah, at one point, like they would get to that point where they're kind of just shooting their gun around, and you can sneak up on them and disarm them or whatever. But going back to what I had said earlier of like trying to avoid combat and maybe sneaking around and building up that fear meter when you have a group of 4 or 5 guys, and maybe like you have to fight these guys. Maybe there's no way to progress without fighting these guys, but before that you get an opportunity to sneak around and build up that fear meter, so when you do fight them, maybe the fight is a little easier because you've softened them up, and it's you hear their heartbeat and you're like, okay, that guy is shitting bricks right now, so I'll be able to take.
I think one of the big failings of Spider-Man PS4, and I know that Xavier, I think you mentioned this in your review, is that the stealth is there's no stakes to the stealth, because you can go in and you can plan it all out, and then as soon as you get spotted, it's just like, okay, well, I'm having a fight now. To the point where you might as well just go crashing in and just start the fight, because all you're doing is slowing yourself down for doing the stealth thing.
It's like if like you're trying to do stealth as like the fucking Hulk. It's like, well, oh no, they saw me. Bam, you're dead. Whatever. You just punch him so hard he like explodes. So who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there needs to be stakes for the stealth, and there needs to be like perks for the stealth. You need to be rewarded for getting good at that side of it, which even the Arkham games, they're like, if you go into a room and there's loads of armed enemies in the Arkham games, you pretty much have to stealth it, because if you just go flying through, you're going to get taken out. But also I'm thinking of like the Spider-Man Noir sections in Shattered Dimensions. If you get spotted in those, in certain sections, it's just like game over. It's not even, you can't fight your way out of those situations, and I think that's a better way to approach it, personally. Yeah,
totally. That could work too. What do you got? Somebody brought it up in the live chat before. What do you think about the health system? Regenerative health packs.
Yeah, that's another one that's always kind of tricky, is because like health packs are a little weird and kind of outdated at this point. Like I feel like we don't really use them anymore, just because it's a little weird to have. Okay, here's a big rotating spider logo on a rooftop, and if I walk through it, I'll feel better.
Call up Rosario Dawson, stop by and patch you up.
Oh, hold on. I'm already at full health.
An idea that I brought up, or that I wrote down, is not having regenerative health. And I mean, it would be really, I don't know if everybody will be down for it, but let's say, all right, maybe outside in the open world, you're not really worrying about your health. You're kind of traversing. Maybe it does regenerate out in the open world, although it wouldn't make much sense. But how about you start a level and you got to get to the end of it on the same health bar? Maybe you could find a med kit on the wall, but I think it'd be kind of cool if it was like, not like you have your health bar, you got to try and make it through this level, survive with this one health bar, and it'll kind of incentivize for you to be a lot more sneaky and careful, and when you're fighting and doing your stealth sections and all that, and be a lot more strategic going about the level.
Totally. It kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I want to see his health decrease. I want to see him physically, impaired by the damage that he's taking. The issue with that is that, like, if you've got longer levels and they have a checkpoint system, you can end up getting like, because there's games like that on 8 and 16-bit consoles where it has a checkpoint system and it'll take you back and your health is at the level that you were, and you end up getting kind of the game breaks if you hit a checkpoint and you have like so little health, because there's just no way you can get past that then.
Oh man, that's like the worst. I think I I'm trying to remember an example of when that happened. I think that happened in like in one of the old PS1 Tomb Raider games.
Yeah, I think.
Oh wait, no, it checkpointed while I was falling off a cliff.
That's the worst.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That is a good point. But I think because I think about the Netflix show and I think about the hallway fight scene, and by how the end of it, he's all beaten up and he's exhausted and all that. I think having that end of it, something like that, in a game would be cool.
I want to see him staggering forward, and get into that last boss of the level, and it just being like all the odds are stacked against him. It would give so much more weight to those boss fights that that's what we feel is missing from Arkham or Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Any other? We've covered Traversal.
We haven't really talked about story elements.
Story, right?
I mean, I'm kind of with you, Diego.
Characters that have to be in it.
Well, so I kind of thought of this last minute. It's kind of funny, but what if you boot up the game and it opens up with previously, and it just kind of recaps Daredevil season 1 through 3, and the game picks up, and the game will serve as the conclusion to the show.
How much money do you want me to buy this idea off of you for? Name your price, sir.
Because you got season 3 ending with the bullseye. Well, I mean, he was in the show, but you get the target thing on his eye where they're like teasing his look or whatever, his costume at the end. So you can have Daredevil. You can have Bullseye. I mean, I don't know. It looks like Kingpin's story was capped.
Resolved.
Yeah.
I've got to confess at this point that I haven't watched season 3 of Daredevil. I dropped off everything after Defenders because it was just like, nah.
Season 3 is like the saving grace of post Defenders. It's like, it's so refreshing, and it just feels like you're right back at season 1 again. It's really nice, and
to be honest,
I'm actually even harsher on the Netflix shows than I think most people are. I think like Luke Cage and Iron Fist are unwatchable.
Yeah, I couldn't finish them.
That's kind of where I burnt out, to be honest. But the fact that it's been cancelled is actually giving me more. It's made me more inclined to go and watch it now. Because I know that it's like, I know that it's going to end.
No, I mean, because we brought up in the beginning of the podcast that it should be set in the Spider-Man PS4 universe. So I mean, I don't know if my Netflix continuation idea would work in that case. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really give it much thought as to what the story should be. In my opinion, I mean, you can always have a good Daredevil story, and my concern was more about having gameplay mechanics that represent the character well. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really give much thought to a story.
Somebody, well, I can't remember. It might have even been Matt Draper, great YouTuber, who said about the Bendis run. Was that him?
Yeah, he did. I have it right here. Yeah, this comes from at Matt Draper YT. Have the story and aesthetics be based on Bendis' run on the character for a more modern feel, but have a level be a flashback with the design modeled after the early comics, including the yellow suit.
Oh, yeah.
And a boss fight with Stilt-Man. That would be interesting.
That's the thing, is that like there is a kind of a sillier era of the character where it was a little bit more Ditko and Lee. And I feel like just because Frank Miller has popularized Daredevil being like all grimdark, all that stuff gets kind of like ignored. But there was like 300 straight issues of that kind of Daredevil, and it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's very of its time. I think was it Don Heck? I think was the artist on it originally. But it's I think that would be a good way of doing the greatest hit stuff, because I think if you're going to have it set in the Spider-Man PS4 universe as well, which is very much kind of Dan Slott kind of style, I think having Frank Miller style might be a bit jarring, but you could definitely, the Bendis thing would make it feel more contemporary, but then you could have flashbacks to like, the death of Elektra and kind of do a greatest hits thing. I think that'd be a cool way of doing it, and then have all that stuff feed back into the modern day story.
Okay, so one thing I know for sure is I want a particular Daredevil villain who keeps getting like completely jacked and ignored to finally get his due. And it's the Gladiator. You know that guy with the mustache, Melvin Potter, who makes him the suit in the show.
Yeah,
that guy is one of the coolest looking villains in comics. He has this big ass suit of armor with buzz saws attached to both gloves, and he looks so cool. And they keep like kind of hyping him up in the show, and I feel like not a lot of people actually really notice because no one like really reads Daredevil.
They reference the buzzsaws, doesn't he? He
throws one like 3 times, and then you see. Okay, another thing: the logo for his costume is on his shirt in Daredevil season 3. The chest piece for his costume, as well as Stilt-Man's legs, for some reason, are in the background of his workshop in season 1 and 2. There's a big poster on his wall that's in his costume's colors, which are like yellow, blue, and silver. Just it's like a poster called with like a gladiator on it and just says "The Gladiators," or or even just like the stuff in his workshop is colored blue, yellow, and silver. They keep just dropping all these major hints that he's gonna be this badass villain, and like season 3 kind of puts him right at that point where he could be that guy, and then it gets canceled. And I was like, I'm probably the only person in the universe who is like watching intently every frame that character was in, going, "Oh, is he gonna be that guy?" Because no one knows who that is.
Yeah, this is kind of going back a little bit, but Synthpunk Gaming in the chat is saying, "What about Mark Waid's run?" And I don't know if you guys have read that, but again, that's like a contemporary way of approaching it.
I actually haven't gotten to read that run yet, but I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah.
Speaking of flashbacks, a moment that I wanna have in the game that would serve kind of as like a light tutorial to the combat system. I wanna play the boxing fight that his father was in.
What if that's like the opening?
Yeah.
What if you just play as Jack Murdoch for like the first like 15 minutes of the game?
Yeah.
And then like it just ends with you getting shot, and then you just hearing a little kid run up right as you fade out.
Totally. That
would be so cool.
That's really cool. That's like that again. Kind of like makes you think of Uncharted.
Yeah.
Where is it the opening of 4 is where your kid. Tom Holland, Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
And that kind of, there's definitely parts of Matt Murdock's childhood that are worth exploring, I think, in those kind of like forced walking sections that all games have nowadays, where you have to just walk around a room and explore things as Mary Jane for some reason.
Yeah. Or like I feel like God of War 4 had a couple of those, but it managed to like keep them relatively short and have like so little to actually really do during them that you kind of knew they'd be over quick.
I don't mind them if I'm on board with the story, but it absolutely kills the replayability of a game for me.
Oh yeah, because
you just don't want to do it again.
I remember playing Spider-Man PS4 again like a couple weeks ago, and as soon as I got to that first Mary Jane section, like I just turned it off.
You know what's something we didn't even touch on?
What?
Like Matt Murdock, like daytime lawyer Matt Murdock.
Oh yeah.
Do we have like Telltale style dialogue sequences where you got to like say the right thing to get to get this innocent guy who's been charged with a crime, get him off so that you don't see that he's been like an innocent guy's been wrongly convicted.
Yeah, that's one way of going. Or L.A. Noire.
Yeah,
I had a really good idea, but I think they just fell short at the execution. But I think
Oh shit! Could
You
you
can
imagine?
totally do that now.
You don't have to. Well, okay. One, you don't have to read the facial expressions, which are super telegraphed in LA Noire. Like everyone makes it a point to look as suspicious as possible if they're the killer. So you can just actually just listen to the heartbeat, or just like try to. Okay, that's the heartbeat of a guy who's lying. That's the heartbeat of a guy who's telling the truth.
Yeah. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up too. That I would have like a message in the beginning of the game that would say your experience would be better if you wear headphones. So when it comes to those moments where you listen out for a heartbeat, rather than having some sort of a prompt, on-screen prompt, even when it comes to not even just the Matt Murdock stuff, but like the Daredevil stuff during combat or stealth, you actually use your headphones for those audio cues to make you feel like Daredevil, rather than just looking for a visual prompt.
That would be cool, as if there was just like certain things that would be kind of hard to hear through a TV speaker. Like they really did put like the puzzle solution like is just a noise you have to look out for. Like maybe there's a section where you have to scan through the city to find like something really specific, like an ice cream truck or something, and you have to actually like listen for it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't just like the camera like kind of zooms in behind you and then focuses in on it, and it's like down the block. It's like, I gotta get to that truck. Like, I have you actually look for it and have to listen for the sound, even through all the other sounds. Like you have to like do that focus mechanic and like be looking around for it.
Yeah, or even have a literal radar on screen. There's the bits in Spider-Man where you know the kind of general direction that you need to go in.
Yeah,
like the tracker bits, that'd be one way of doing it. Have you guys, Blair Farrell, good friend of ours, mentions Phoenix Wright in the chat? Have you guys played that?
Yes, I
haven't.
I was gonna pull up his tweet here. I think he did tweet.
I haven't played it, but I know that often comes up when people's talking about what a Daredevil game could be like.
Have Phoenix Wright going on during like the daytime sequences, and then have like more of what we're describing during the night.
Yeah. So here's what he said. Blair Farrell at Blarcade. Arkham Combat using the radar vision for detective visions. Enemies that had devices like pacemakers later on that prevent you from detecting them. That's an interesting thought. Catwoman, Arkham City building and climbing, which Josh, you brought up earlier as well.
I didn't steal that idea, I promise.
And Phoenix Wright courtroom sessions as Matt Murdock, where you have to detect lies, I think he meant to say.
The courtroom stuff is so like integral to the character, I feel like, and that's what I really liked about season 1 of the Netflix show, is that it felt like it started off as a procedural drama, and I think they kind of lost that because he wasn't practicing law.
He just stopped being a lawyer basically because he was too depressed. I gotta be honest with you. Unfortunately, season 3 kind of lacks in that same regard too. There's more police procedural stuff going on in that, I guess, like more like kind of around the later episodes of season 1. But the courtroom stuff, they pretty much just like completely drop.
Let me guess. There's a hardened chief of police, and their partner dies, and they have to come around and start working with Daredevil. Is that about right?
Not. It's more of like, instead of a hardened chief of police, it's like the police commissioner who I think is running for mayor or something. Like, and you're kind of on track, but I feel like it's kind of tied to something that happened in season 2.
Okay. I shouldn't be guessing.
I think having go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to mention one because I don't want to go back to talking about the combat, but I also saw in the chat when I was looking, Synthpunk Gaming, again killing it, said about Neo with changing stances.
Oh right, yeah, that game did that pretty well too.
So that's like a perfect model that you can just translate that. But yeah, sorry, go on. What you're saying?
I think having the daytime lawyer stuff and your nightlife. You're kind of going out, maybe looking for evidence or stuff to back you up during your daytime court sessions could be cool too. Having those two elements kind of woven together. Rather than having them be two separate things.
Yeah,
cool.
Oh, I just looked at Twitter notifications and someone's been tagging us and like adding in a little extra stuff. Daredevil game idea. This is by Mundane Hatred at Twitter. Daredevil game idea. Think sleeping dogs with a bit more fluent fighting style, the combat style wheels, sound-based stealth sections, and yeah. So he's kind of like talking about stuff we've already talked about, but then he says, new idea, have like a murdered sole suspect thing where you click a joystick to reveal things and it starts to wear off after a bit. So you use it to get another look or refreshing the image or something. I could see something like that.
I was a little lost. Murders, right, that game. I never played that game.
I did.
That one game, right, where you play as a ghost or something?
You play as a ghost detective and you have to solve your own murder.
That's such a cool concept.
It's actually it's like the gameplay is pretty. I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know. It's all right. It works. The premise is the most interesting thing, and I guess the story. That game is probably one of the most egregious examples of this didn't need to have a combat mechanic, but they put one in anyway, just so people wouldn't get bored.
Wow, this is interesting. That same guy at Mundane Hatred, he says sound-based stealth sections and the blood-like liquid look.
Yeah, well, that was like 11 minutes ago. We did say that like how long was it going?
Yeah, I'm starting. I'm wondering. I'm like, did he like think of the same idea, or is he like referencing? Because that was
we should have got him on. He could have just done it all for us.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me see if we have any other tags, because I want to read off the. Here's one. This is at Gabo Chen. I imagine it an amalgamation between the Miller, the Brubaker and Bendis run, and the Charles Soule run, with the Daredevil suit being a mix of the classic and Netflix suit. The gameplay would be like the Arkham games, but with a bigger emphasis on stealth, since Matt is poor.
Yeah.
The combat would be similar to Sleeping Dog. I think you mentioned this. Yeah.
I think the courtroom stuff you were saying, the kind of the duality of it. There's the Telltale Batman games do a good job of decisions that you make as Bruce Wayne affecting what happens as Batman, and I think that's important. And that's,
how about
again,
something like you like are fighting a bunch of criminals and like you kick their asses, and then the next day, because like maybe Matt's doing like some public defender work, he has to represent one of the guys he beat up.
That'd be so cool. That's like such a simple thing that, it's not like you're having to have branching paths, but that'd be such a cool way of bringing that back in.
What would be even cooler is like, what if you actually had to remember the events from yesterday, like that, like you had to remember what was going on in the context to see if the guy is telling the story right, and you can actually call him out and be like, no, I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah.
When he says something that was like blatantly wrong, like maybe he's like trying to describe the events and he's talking about then he gets in this color car, and you could be like, no, it was not a blue car, or something like that. Or actually, I guess that Matt wouldn't know.
Well, can he smell like the kind of paint or something like that?
Or something really stupid in like issue 1, where he's like, I can feel the fabric, so I know what color it is. So I know this suit is yellow. So why'd you make it yellow then?
It's super stealthy yellow.
Yeah.
What about if when the criminal is retelling it, you have to replay the fight that you've just done, but you're replaying it, their version of it? That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. That
would be kind of neat. So like, what if it like kind of incorporates whatever you did during the gameplay into it as a cutscene? So like, you could. So like if you did a lot of really cool moves, you'll see that in like a cinematic angle, like not as gameplay. But then like I feel like that would also open players to doing like stupid shit. Like I'm gonna do this whole fight by standing in the corner and throwing the club at everyone's crotch, and then that'll show in the cutscene. It's one of those weird indie game ideas. It's something to think about, you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna read off the rest of the tweets that we got. Hopefully, I don't reread some of the same ones. This is from @SpiderPenguinX. There will be, of course, gameplay at night similar to the Arkham games, but what I would add is that you would be a lawyer during the day, and this would affect the night. For example, you fail to defend someone, so then they end up in jail, unable to be out at night. So yeah, kind of like we were saying before, having the nighttime gameplay and your daytime lawyer stuff kind of be interwoven together. That'll affect the story that way.
Or yeah, like what if you successfully defend someone during the daytime, and then they could be like an informant for your other persona at night, and they actually help a certain mission be easier because they'll just tell you what location to go to instead of you having to find it.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. It'll kind of incentivize you to actually perform well during the court sessions.
I mean, like obviously you'll still be able to get where you need to go either way, but it'll give you an advantage. It'll give you an edge. So like if you're doing like a speed run, you'll be like inclined to be better at being a lawyer.
Yeah, definitely. This comes from @SuperSwimTeam7. I wanted to focus on a smaller scale city that's more focused on interiors than exteriors. More sewers, warehouses, less skyscrapers. He would move around and traverse similar to an Assassin's Creed character. Varied bosses would be great. But I definitely agree that it shouldn't be open world or like Spider-Man. Have more detailed interior levels.
Be something more personal.
Definitely. This comes from @Waru_boy. His high-end senses would be similar to Batman's detective mode. Would take inspiration from the show, but have original changes in story. In this game, Daredevil would be obviously playable, but with Punisher, Elektra, and Bullseye in free roam and challenges. So kind of like the Arkham games where that like you play as Catwoman and what's that guy's name, Azrael, in the combat challenges. I would definitely that'd be cool as Bullseye and Elektra. I would want to reserve Punisher for his own game though.
Well, because like what we're describing here for Daredevil would not at all translate to like Punisher is essentially just a third-person shooter. Like you know. Really.
Yeah.
Mundane Hatred on Twitter said, I remember in Netflix's Daredevil, they say something about the armor, like black is knife resistant and the red is bullet resistant or something. I imagine an upgrade system where you can customize which resistance is greater. So like, if your suit is a little bit more Netflix based, you could like just like change the damage tables. So like, do I want to be more resistant to like melee damage or more resistant to like bullet damage? And have it so you can't upgrade both. You have to pick.
Right. You could choose the black pajamas and just be more focused on stealth. You know, you don't have to worry about moving around slowly. You can kind of just run around and you won't make as much noise because you know you're not wearing armor. You're just wearing sweatpants and like a Under Armour shirt.
Yeah. Again, that would play into the combat wheel. If you know that your play style is going to be more catered to like boxing, then you might put more armor around the face or less armor around the face if you're going to be adopting this kind of stance with your hands up above your face.
Oh yeah,
that'd be a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. You guys are really selling me on this game, by the way. I'm sad that what we're saying doesn't exist and probably won't. I want what we're talking about now.
On the list of Marvel characters that are going to get games soon, Daredevil is so far down. It's like
you don't know. Okay, what? Maybe I could. All right. So I know a guy. All right.
Who knows a guy?
I know a guy, and like a year and a half ago or something, he gave me a little insider info, and he said, "This is unrelated, but I'm building something." He said, John Mulaney is going to be Spider-Ham, and Nicolas Cage is going to be Spider-Man Noir in Spider-Verse. And it was like right around the time, like maybe like 4 months after that first trailer came out, and they hadn't announced either of those yet, right? And then he was right. So I think he's a credible source. And he says there's a lot of talks right now about a Daredevil game, like a lot. And he said that from the sources he knew, if they wanted to pull the trigger on that, it would be heavily based on how well Spider-Man PS4 sells. So,
well, yeah, and it's actually saying that the story of how Spider-Man PS4 came to be is that Marvel approached Insomniac and said, you know, what do you want to do? And they could have gone to a whole bunch of developers and said the same thing. They could have gone to Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch, and there might have been one of those developers who've said, we want to do Daredevil. So I suppose it is within the realms of possibility.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I guess while
there's a chance, is what I'm saying, is like from a credible source who I know has given me insider info that's turned out to be true. Someone has told me in the past there's a shot. They're thinking about it.
I'm all for it.
Any developers in mind, you guys?
I think like because they're down a franchise right now, it would be kind of cool if Naughty Dog got it. Because they'll really like go like above and beyond with that. You know, like if they put the same kind of time and care and love into that as they did with like an Uncharted game, it would be like one of the most polished experiences ever.
Especially in like the story side of things.
Oh yeah, because like they're, you know, they value story like so much compared to some developers. Like they to the point that I mean they've just kind of phased out like the transition from gameplay to cutscenes just because they think like both need to go hand in hand so well. Like Uncharted 4 doesn't have any like actual like 3D cutscenes. It's just the gameplay just turns into motion capture scenes sometimes and then turns back, and it's like really seamless.
It also just made me realize when we were talking about the Avengers project, and I mean, is the common conception of it that it's going to be a multi-platform game, right? The Avengers project. So I mean, I obviously it's going to be multi-platform. So when
it seems so.
When we were talking about should it be set in the Spider-Man PS4 universe, would that be kind of that something that would affect having it be in the same universe if it's multi-platform while Spider-Man PS4 is a Sony exclusive? And
I think it totally would. Yeah, Sony do not play well with others.
And then you have
Naughty
Dog, who's their first party for Sony, right?
Yeah.
And if they were to do the Daredevil game, I think it would
be an exclusive.
Yeah, and at that point, I think it would be even more of a possibility to have it be set in the same universe as Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, because like that, I think that's the thing is like they did talk about how we want to have a games universe, but it's gonna be weird if one of them is multi-platform but Spider-Man is not. So like, I'm playing this. I'm playing this Avengers game on my Xbox, but it has the PS4 Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
Like you can play with his suit. Like I think that does kind of, because there has been such like talk about we want to do a Marvel Games universe. I think that means that those are going to have to be exclusives because like everyone's so protective of their brands, you know, like cross promoting is like such a foreign and scary concept to some developers. Like you want us to have this oh, you know what? I remember there's this really bizarre example of like kind of an exception to that rule is they did PlayStation All-Stars, which is supposed to be here's characters from all kinds of like PlayStation exclusive franchises, and it has Isaac Clarke.
And then fucking Big Daddy.
Yeah, it's like
Bioshock.
why are those there?
Yeah, that was.
So I don't know. Maybe that's evidence that like they'll be a little relaxed on it and be like, yeah, you could have our PS4 advanced suit Spider-Man and something else, but like his main game is on our thing.
Yeah. You can't do anything that progresses the character in any way or affects him.
Yeah, he's just there for fun.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to digress for 2 seconds to talk about how shitty the Marvel Gamerverse branding is. They came out with this thing and they were like, oh, it's the Marvel Gamerverse. And it's essentially just a branding for toys and hoodies and pencil cases and all that kind of shit. And it's
like
such a
they haven't had
opportunity.
any projects in it except one thing.
It's so dumb.
Because like we know Ultimate Alliance can't be in it because it's a fucking Switch exclusive and it has a different Spider-Man in it.
Yeah.
So speaking of Ultimate Alliance, my pick, if they weren't doing Ultimate Alliance, would have been Ninja Theory. Purely based on
Neo.
Yeah, and ninjas.
Give Elektra some of those jiggle physics.
Yeah, totally. Why not?
I know I give them like a lot of shit for that. I don't actually care. I think it's funny to just bring up. Like it makes me laugh that was a controversy at one point. Is these boobs are too bouncy.
It makes me laugh that that's somebody's job.
There's some guy who's
they
just
have to program that, and it's all ones and zeros.
There's some guy just like typing in different coding. Is just like, well, now it's just kind of stuck, pointed straight up. The gravity stopped working on it. Like you gotta imagine like the bugs were during that process.
Yeah, I want to get a job as a QA tester at Ninja Theory. I want to see the glitches.
Just the boobs just turn inside out in the character model.
All right. Let's finish off the tweets here. This comes from Webhead at Webhead1962. It would be kind of cool when you're throwing your billy clubs, you can aim and ricochet off walls.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Like what if it had like a, you know how in like Uncharted when you're about to throw that grenade, it has like an arc that shows you like, where it'll bounce and where it'll go. What if it's something kind of like that? Is it'll have a straight line that'll show you where it's gonna ricochet, and like if you hit a wall at the exact right angle, it'll bounce all the way down a hallway.
Yeah, that would definitely work. Very easy to pull off too.
Yeah.
This comes from its_Rorschach_. Honestly, a Daredevil game with detective vision mechanic akin to that of the Arkham series could be really interesting. Don't know how gameplay outside of detective mode would work though.
I think we got that covered.
And here we have at Bosnian Superman. Combat similar to Arkham Nightwing's moves. Parkour and swinging with the batons for traversal. A first-person sense mode. Oh, yeah, which was brought up earlier before. This is from written by Brando. I think maybe the most important thing they should start with is traversal. Batman's bulky and armored up in the Arkham games, and Spider-Man's light and acrobatic. Daredevil should be right in the middle. He's armored, sure, but he's also basically a ninja. Have him do parkour and flips work like the tricks Spider-Man can do in the air. And maybe don't lean too heavily into swinging around with the billy club. Just avoid being too much like the wall crawler, right? Which we brought up earlier on, having certain points with the billy club to be able to swing off of rather than, effortlessly swinging like Spider-Man.
There was a storyline for Spider-Man once where he lost his costume. So he went up to Matt Murdock's law office and was like, "Hey, you got a spare costume I could borrow? Because I really need something to wear." He's like, yeah, I got one. He's like, "Does it have eye holes?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then Spider-Man ran around for like a whole night, like kicking ass while dressed as Daredevil. And then it got Daredevil like a lot of good press. And then they were like, "Where was Spider-Man during all this? What a coward." And Matt was like, "Well, that worked out." And Spider-Man's like, "Oh."
This comes from Tony_the_Tony. have the game be a third-person free-roam game, similar vibe to most Spider games, but in New Game Plus, you're blind and have the other senses enhanced, like seeing a small radius of the ground on the ground you're on, and louder things are more visible.
Yeah, make it a PS1 game with the draw distance.
Yeah.
So it's like Silent Hill. You can't see anything.
That could be a fun bonus mode.
You know, I've actually thought about that. Is like, I'm surprised no one's tried to capitalize on bad draw distance and make it a gameplay mechanic in some indie project.
Yeah, that polygon stuff it's going to come in. It's already starting to come in indie games.
Oh yeah, like we're past the like we're past like the Super Nintendo, like Genesis kind of nostalgia era, and now we're doing like, here's PS1 nostalgia. Let's do like low poly models. It's like secret costumes and games, or just here's a game entirely in a PS1 aesthetic.
Oh man, the low poly model of Spider-Man should have been in
Spider-Man. It should have.
Yeah,
that would have been awesome.
So cool.
I mean, they would have had to like figure out the rights from like, is Neversoft even still around?
I think they got
is it Activision?
Dissolved, I think, didn't they?
I think they got dissolved into Activision. Like basically every Spider-Man developer before Insomniac at some point or another got dissolved into, okay, you're working on Call of Duty now, shut up. And like, I think also part of it had something to do with the fact that skateboarding games went out of style, so Neversoft couldn't fall back on Tony Hawk.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah. Any bonus modes or extra costumes you guys would want in the game?
I want both the live action costumes, and then like, you know, there's like 3 from the comics. There's one where his suit is like basically all black, like the Daredevil suit. Like, it has the horns and everything. It has the D on the chest, and that's like, or the belt, and those are the only red spots that are highlights, and the rest of it is black, and it looks really cool. Just like the classic one that we all know from like the 80s comics. And then obviously the goofy yellow one, because that's fun. And then I guess you could definitely, you could kind of do like 3 different kinds of the Man Without Fear suit, because like the one in Frank Miller's original book was more like a sweatshirt and sweatpants with like sneakers on.
Yeah.
And then like the 2 different takes on it with the Netflix version. Maybe the game could pull a Spider-Man and have like, here's our original idea for a Daredevil suit. Like, here's what we think it should look like or could look like.
Yeah.
And just play around with that a little. Well, what else could you do other than those though?
Yeah, I mean, there's that gray and red one that's really heavily armored.
Oh yeah, the one from the 90s. Oh,
yeah, that's the one I was gonna say. What about the Affleck suit? That's a competition right now.
I said earlier, I was like, it would be, I want both the live action ones, because I don't dislike that suit. Like, I kind of appreciate that they managed to keep the logo on it, because I knew as soon as the Netflix show was announced, that was going to be the first thing to go, if they even did the devil suit at all. But the Affleck version isn't. Like, it's not a bad take on the costume.
No, I mean, honestly. It's not terrible. I mean, it looks a little uncomfortable with all the leather, but
oh well, yeah. Like, the material just like doesn't look like reasonable to actually fight anyone in, but it's a video game model.
When you've got that suit equipped in the game, all the sound effects are just squeaking, just creaking leather.
Just leather grinding on itself.
That'd be the worst outfit to stealth in.
There's a cutscene where he has to sit down, and it makes just this uncomfortable, like, squeaking fart noise, and it's not acknowledged by the characters in the game, but they put it in there anyway.
Or it's like the bit in Friends where Ross gets stuck in the leather pants. Let's get Claire Temple to put talcum powder down.
I mean, I can't think of any other costumes.
There's got to be. Superheroes get new costumes every 5 seconds. There's got to be. You know what? This is a case of just us not reading enough Daredevil comics. There's probably like 30.
I mean, I've seen a lot of like original designs, like fan art.
Put in the contest of slashers designed by Brandon with the helmet with no eye holes. That thing looks fucking awesome.
Totally. There was this one that was really kind of like samurai influence. Had like the those demonic like masks that you see in Neo. Had that whole kind of look going for it.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's the Shadowland design, which has like a more jagged chest logo, and the horns are longer, and it's like almost all black except for the DD. Yeah, all of these are like fan designs that I'm looking up right now. I can't really find any like official alternate takes on the costume. He's really only had like 3 looks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down for like crazy new costumes original to the game.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, because Spider-Man had like 3 of them, right?
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the?
I just want to make a correction. Well, I've been corrected by Blair in the chat, who said it's Team Ninja is who I meant before when I said Ninja Theory.
Oh yeah,
Ninja Theory is Devil May Cry.
Okay,
that's my bad.
Whoops. I mean, can you blame him though? There's only like so many game developers that are ninjas, you know.
Totally. So yeah, I think, man, I think we've been going on for a while now, haven't we?
Well, there's just a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this is a good one.
We've got it all mapped out now. We can just send it straight to Marvel and wait for the check to come through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like. Real talk though is like if someone actually did use this to like put together their design doc of sorts, I wouldn't want anything just other than just knowing that the game we've described would exist. Like they don't have to pay us. They don't even have to really even credit us. I mean, it would be nice if they did, but like I just want that game that we just came up with because that sounds so cool.
Yeah, I mean, its existence would be the payoff for me.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to get like an Evan style name.
Yeah.
On a whiteboard somewhere.
Or cool. Just a little. Here's the Godzilla Mendoza logo on a book in the background of one scene.
So yeah, I mean that was our pitch for a Daredevil video game. Thank you everyone for hanging out and tweeting us your ideas for a game. We hope you liked it as much as we did. We want this game to exist. We don't. I don't know for next week's episode. I guess we could decide amongst ourselves within the week what character we should do next.
Depends if there's any breaking news as well, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
So let's keep an eye out for that. You want to come up with it right now?
I don't know because I don't want to
what. Okay, we won't make any promises, but let's like come up with like who's another character we could.
I think Ant-Man would definitely be interesting.
Ant-Man for sure.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I could see some cool stuff with that. Like you could do a lot of like non-Euclidean geometry sort of stuff, like what they do with like the Joker sequences in the Arkham games, or like The Evil Within has a lot of weird, crazy visual sequences. What else? I'm like looking around my room at posters and action figures. Like, what's a character?
I'm not ready to do this one yet because this is the big one. But at one point, Superman.
We lightly touched on that, but I feel like that could be open to a huge discussion. Like I mean, look how much we came up with today just on a character who is just a blind ninja who hears good. Like that's a whole other can of worms. So I want to do that at some point too.
Yeah.
We need to start thinking about X-Men games because we're going to be seeing them very soon.
Oh boy, as soon as the MCU likes something, it becomes prominent again.
Yeah, X-Men will definitely be fun to do.
There could be an actually like pretty good 4-player Fantastic Four game.
Oh yeah.
One of those exists in our mind's eye. I bet we could come up with some for that, because like the two that exist already are essentially just here's Ultimate Alliance, except you can't change the roster.
Yeah.
All right. So here, how about a Moon Knight game? Wait.
Oh, so just Arkham.
Yeah. All right. So like, it's like Arkham, but there's like you can kill stuff, and that's it. That's what's different. So you throw the battering at the guy, and it doesn't bounce off, and he goes "ow!" Instead, just fucking
It'll
sticks
just
in
be
his head.
lodged in
Just
there.
a geyser of blood. You get extra points for carving a moon crescent logo on people's foreheads. Someone, by the way, Mundane Hatred on Twitter, when we were talking about the doing an original costume for Daredevil, he said, just give Daredevil a big, ugly ass white D on his chest.
Yeah.
Can someone do that? Can someone, like, whoever listens to this and has like a decent grasp on art, can someone do like an advanced suit but for Daredevil, and just like what that could look like? Because it could potentially be pretty funny, or it could look pretty badass, or maybe kind of both.
We might actually see Stilt-Man and Gladiator and anybody else who's in a mech suit.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that's the thing though, is because Gladiator isn't really a mech suit though, but I know they would make it one, and that kind of depresses me. What if they made Stilt-Man like super badass? Like, what if his suit looked really cool, and his actual like elongated legs like led to some like really cool fight moves? Like, what if they just, instead of doing what everyone else does, which is essentially just having him be like a joke character, what if they're like, let's just have this be like awesome. Like, let's make this complete garbage character just the coolest. Let's have him be like one of the highlights.
Yeah, like a Colossus in Shadow of the Colossus, or like the big ones in Horizon Zero Dawn. Where you've got to scale them.
He's like stomping around through the city, like he's just going around like kicking shit and stomping on cars, and like you have to like climb up his legs while like he's like shaking you off, and he's got like defenses built into his suit.
That'd be cool.
That'd be different from all the other boss fights. Have something to stand out like that, and mess around with the traversal mechanics.
Yeah.
So yeah,
what other villains could possibly even show up in it? Because we know, like, you just
Bullseye.
listed like Bullseye, Gladiator, Elektra, Stilt-Man. There's got to be someone else who. I mean,
a fight with Kingpin would be cool. I mean, like he was already in Spider-Man PS4. Yeah.
And Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, man, Kingpin's been used a lot.
There's been 3 different boss fights with Kingpin in Spider-Man games, and so far, like, all 3 of them have been thoroughly underwhelming.
Yeah,
he's not a cool character to fight to me. I don't think, unless you're like a normal guy like Daredevil, so it's just 2 normal guys fighting each other, and it's like on even ground. Yeah, I really don't think he should be a fighty villain.
Because going back to the whole combat mechanic of switching up your style, I mean, somebody like Kingpin, fights really different from someone like Bullseye or the Ninja guy. So that's something you would have to take into consideration when doing a boss fight with him.
So yeah, that could be cool, but just like so far, he hasn't really translated well to other stuff. I like him more as like the man with the plan kind of boss character.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it diminishes him a little bit if you also add in this weird, my body is only 2% body fat. I'm actually one of the strongest men on Earth, and I can punch you through a brick wall, Spider-Man. Like, it's
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it better when he's pulling the strings behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just added like a whole extra like 5 minutes to that conversation. I need to learn to shut up when Diego's trying to do the outro.
No, I mean, that's what we're here for, man. You know, we got to
But-
pitch the ultimate game. We got to
My
get in
concern
as
is
many
just that we're
ideas.
not going to get another opportunity to bring this stuff up. Like,
No, yeah, no, I totally get it, man. It's fun coming up with all this stuff. Any other? I mean, what's that one sewer? The Sewer King? Isn't he a Daredevil villain?
I'm not sure.
Oh, what about Typhoid Mary? Did we say that?
Oh yeah, well, because she has like different superpowers, so she has like she could have different fighting styles for each of her different personalities. That could be cool.
That'd be cool.
There was someone else, someone that you fight in the Game Boy game. Oh, I forgot her name.
It's a female character, huh?
Yeah, I think her ability had something to do with sound waves.
I think there's a character in the Mark Waid run that's like an anti-Daredevil or something who was like a cool looking villain. I didn't read it, so I don't know what he is, but I think he had something to do with like he creates, or he's like deaf and has just like such good vision that he actually ends up being like a match for Daredevil somehow, but he can also, because he's deaf, like fight in extremely loud areas. Maybe I'm just like making that up, but I feel like I saw something like that, which could be cool. Like your radar sense is overwhelmed and you can't like use it in the fight at all just because it's so loud.
Yeah.
Isn't there a character called Echo?
Echo, that's her. Yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was thinking of. Yep.
Okay, all right. So you have a fight with Black Bolt, and
That's a cool idea.
Black Bolt's costume is like weirdly similar to Bullseye, and for that reason, they're both my dad's favorite characters because he just likes the design for both so much. Like my dad is like the only like diehard Black Bolt fan.
We got to come up with the Black Bolt video game.
All right, so you press X to yell, and then the
Win.
game's over. It just cuts to credits.
It's Black Bolt, but you get laryngitis.
so
You
so
can't.
you can't do it as
do anything.
much. That'd be awesome.
You just got to drink like hot lemon and honey.
Oh boy, got Medusa's preparing more of those hot toddies.
Okay.
So that
the
was
power ups are lozenges.
that was our Daredevil video game pitch.
But also, I wanted to. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I swear. I'm not gonna be that guy anymore.
You can follow me at Behold the Sag. Josh, quick, what's your Twitter handle?
Oh, at Panels to Pixels. Go follow me.
Yeah, and you can find me at Godzilla Mendoza on both YouTube and Twitter. Should we plug projects that we got coming out this week, if anything?
Yeah, absolutely. You can start.
All right. Okay. I finally have finished my Hulk Games retrospective, and it's coming out probably in the next couple hours, maybe tomorrow. I haven't decided yet. I don't want to hurt its views by releasing it at like 8 p.m. when no one can watch it. But it's definitely going to be at some point, very soon. So just wait on that. I have a very, very cool special guest on it, and I can't believe they were nice enough to show up for it. So I'm looking forward to that. I also, in just a fit of depression the other day, decided to write a whole video essay about SpongeBob. And then Scott was like, "Can I read it?" And it was just kind of a joke. And then he read it and was like, "This is funny enough. I want to edit it." And then he did. So I guess that's coming out in the next 2 weeks.
All right. Variety is the spice of life.
That's what I got going on. So what about you, Josh?
I'm plugging the same thing I plugged last week, which still hasn't come out yet, which is my review of a Spider-Man obscure DOS game from 1996. And it's taken longer because I came up with a joke that requires me to go film on location somewhere for like a 5-second joke, and it's like the dumbest thing. So
I hate when I have those ideas, because you're not going to forgive yourself if you decide not to do them. So it's
I
like,
had to put it
wouldn't it be funny if I dressed up as Batman and rode around on a bike in a parking lot while my buddy was dressed up as the Riddler? And it's like, you come up with it, you write it down, and it's funny, and then you realize like on the day of that it's like, oh god, this is 5 hours of work for about a minute and a half of content.
Yeah, not even like 5 seconds in this case. It's so stupid.
But well, you know what? I'm proud of you for putting in that extra level of work. I can't wait to see it. Please, like, when that video is public, send it to me right away. I'm like super excited.
I will do. Thank you.
Same here, man. Same here. And I've got part 3 of my Batman handheld games retrospect. Don't know if it'll be coming out this week, probably early next week. And yeah, it's going to be on Batman Returns, I believe. I already forgot the weird handheld console. Actually, Blair tweeted at me last week.
Atari Lynx.
Yeah, there you go. I'll be. I gotta find an emulator for that. Hopefully, there is one.
You're not going to find an original.
No.
Hit eBay.
No, I'll cheat my way through this one. And yeah, that's what I got working. You can follow me at Behold the Sack on Twitter and YouTube as well.
I just want to say absolute props to Xavier and Evan and Scott, Lord Cheddar, for raising $500 the other day on the Marvel vs. Capcom stream.
That was awesome, guys.
No problem. Well, a big thanks to like Evan though, is because like we didn't quite meet our goal of 500, so he actually forked over a lot of extra cash, like out of pocket, like just there to make sure it was an even 500. So big ups to him for that. That was really cool, and he didn't even like tell anybody. So I'm gonna be the one who blows the whistle on him. That guy threw like an extra $150, $160 at that just to make sure. And that was super awesome of him. And he didn't even like tell anybody about it. So good on him.
It's a class act.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome, man. Hopefully, sometime in the future, we could do something similar with a Marvel Ultimate Alliance or a fighting game. That'd be really cool.
Totally.
And yeah, with that was Autosaving the Day with the Daredevil video game pitch. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.